We have Warren Moon today on the show. This is Live Life by Design. Thank you for being on.
Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure
How you doing?
to get to meet you. I'm doing well. Thank you. So, illustrious career, not just in actively playing, but marketing, sports broadcasting, etc. So we have a lot to unpack today. The name of the show is Live Life by Design. So we talk about all things life, all things design work. You know, we talk to different business owners, we talk to artists, you know, athletes, etc. So, and we'll kind of go, you know, towards the end of your career, then kind of the middle, the beginning. We'll kind of go all over the place and unpack this thing. So let me start with this. You spent a lot of time in the CFL, the Canadian Football League, and you also spent time in the NFL.
Right.
Maybe let's start with that. The transition from the CFL to the NFL. How did that transpire, and what were some of the learning lessons through that process, if you don't mind?
Well, I think the transition for me was going from one city to another city. First of all, you're going from one country back to your country. I have a family now at this point, where when I first went up there, I didn't. So now I have 3 children that I'm taking down there, and a pregnant wife. So our 4th was on the way. So you have to make all those adjustments and make sure your family life is comfortable first. Whether it's where you're going to go to the grocery store, where you're going to go to the cleaners, what bank are you going to use, what school are your kids going to go to, all those different things. So I wanted to make sure I got down to Houston early as I possibly could to get all those things in order, because I wanted to make sure they were taken care of so I could focus on what I needed to do to play football. So that was the first thing. And then now all of a sudden you're coming into a new building where guys have heard a lot about you but really don't know that much about you, because I've been away in another country for 6 years. So I have to learn all those personalities. I have to get their confidence, and they have to see who I am and how I work and how I operate, and I've got to get their trust. So that was important for me in the beginning as well. And we haven't even started talking about football yet. We're just talking about, if I'm going to be these guys' leader, if I'm going to be somebody that they're going to want to follow, they've got to get to know me. So I had to be around them. I had to spend time with them. I had to get to know personalities. I had to know which buttons I could push with certain guys and which buttons I couldn't with other guys. So that takes a little bit of time. And then you're trying to learn a new offense as well. So all those things combined, it's a big transition.
Yeah, and I think this speaks so loudly as how sophisticated that business is. I think a lot of folks just watching from, the TV or the computer, it's like, they're just throwing a football around, but it's a very, sophisticated game, and it's a very sophisticated business.
Well, then you add the fact that I'm the quarterback of the football team now. So when you're the quarterback of an NFL team in a major city, you're probably as popular, depending on how well you play, or as well known as maybe the mayor or the governor of that state, you know. So there's a leadership component that comes to that, and it's how you carry yourself. It's how involved are you going to get in the community to let people know that you care about their community as well, because they're helping to pay your salary, and they want to see, okay, what are you going to give back to us? So there's a whole nother element of it there.
Love that. And then I like what you said at the beginning there. Do you have 4 kids total?
I have 5.
5 kids total. Okay. So when you were doing the transition, it was 4 kids at the time. And you mentioned I needed to make sure that the school was checked off, the groceries, all that stuff. And, the fans only see what's happening on the field. They don't understand that there's all this. And there's a law in business and in sports called Hick's Law, which states the more things you focus, the slower you react. So if the home front ain't taken care of, there's no way you can be as effective as you were as a quarterback. So I love that you put first things first. You took care of the home front, which is the reason why you're doing what you're doing. And then by design, when you go to the field of play, since all those boxes are checked, now you can dominate and pay attention to the job at hand.
Well, you can really focus.
And then I also love what you said. You focused a lot on the EQ, the emotional quotient of your team. As the quarterback, you're essentially the CEO of that team.
Right.
And you need to capture the hearts and minds of your players. It's not just getting in there and saying, hey, I'm the man, follow me. You need to, spend time with them, get to know them, get to understand what makes them tick, what pisses them off, and then you can, create that team around you. So talk to us about leadership and how much leadership comes into play when you're executing at this type of level? Like and we can unpack this, but how crucial is leadership versus just, hey, I'm a dog and I know how to play, along with these other 10 guys?
Well, it's huge anyway, just because you're the quarterback of the football team. But again, if you're a guy that's coming in from another country that guys don't really know about, they've never seen you play in the NFL, they probably have never seen me play in the CFL, because maybe they don't watch CFL games. So they don't know what they're getting. All they know is what they read in the papers and what they hear and how much money I'm going to be paid and all those different things. So they're going to check you out and see how you operate. They're going to see, when do you get into the building in the morning? Do you get there early? Do you get there on time? Are you late? How long are you in the building? Do you leave when it's time to go? Do you leave a little after, or are you the last one to leave? All those different things. And then they want to see how you operate when you're in the building. How you attack the weight room, all those different things. So,
and were you always aware of this?
Oh, yeah.
How'd you create this awareness?
Because I had to have that awareness when I first went from the college football up to Canada, because again, they had heard all this stuff about me up in Canada as a Rose Bowl MVP and Player of the Year in the Pac-8, all those different things. So they wanted to see who I was coming up there. So I learned at a very young age, at 21 years old, this is how you're going to be perceived as a quarterback when you get to the professional level, because you're coming in now with guys who have families. They have 2 and 3 kids. Some of these guys are 34, 35, 36 years old. So they're going to check you out and see what you got as a young guy. And I was 26 years old when I came to the NFL, but still there were guys, or 27, but there were guys that...
Do you guys hear that? How old?
27. But there were guys that were older than me in the league at
27
that time.
and Hall of Famer.
Yes, sir.
In 2006, right?
Yeah.
Inducted. 27 years old. Entering the league. Hall of Famer. Crazy.
I still got 17 years in.
That's crazy. That's insane.
And 23 total. So it's a long career.
And you got inducted in both.
Yes.
Right?
I'm the only player in both.
Crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty special. Marv Levy's the only coach, and I want to say Bud Grant. 2 coaches and myself.
So, I mean, just in chatting with you for a few minutes here, I can tell that leadership is a big part of your DNA and a big part of your success.
Yeah.
I'm assuming, well, I know for sure nowadays, leadership sometimes is few and far between. Like true leadership, meaning, you kind of go through the motions, but you're not really that leader all the way through, meaning you kind of show a certain something here, but behind the scenes you might be somebody else. The way I describe it is, some people focus more on their reputation than their character. In my opinion, reputation is, this is what people perceive me to be, where character is, this is truly who I am, regardless of any situation. This is who I genuinely am as a human. So how do you view leadership, the difference between reputation and character, and why is character overarching when you compare it to reputation, if that makes sense?
Well, just like you said, your reputation is just things that you build by the way you play the game. And if you have big games, all of a sudden your reputation starts to grow because of your performance level. But the character part of it and the leadership part of it is the most important to me, because it all starts before anything else. Before I hit the field, before I even hit the field for a game, whether it was coming out of college to Canada, whether it was coming out of Canada to the NFL, that character and leadership part starts before you even play your first football game. And so people need to know who you are and what type of leader you are, and you have to develop that through just a lot of time and a lot of work and effort. First, to get yourself ready to play at a certain level, and then to translate what that means to other guys too. One of the reasons I wore that number 1 on my chest was a constant reminder to me that that's where I always wanted to be. That's what I was always focusing on, to be the best. But it was also a reminder to my football team, every time they looked at my number on my chest, that that's where I wanted us to be. So there was a reason behind that number 1. It wasn't just because it was a cool looking number back in those days. There was a meaning behind it. And the leadership part of it, that's one of the reasons I chose football, is because I love the fact that at the quarterback position, you are the focal point. You are the leader, and you're the guy that's going to make the critical decisions. You're the guy that's going to help get your team ready to play each and every week by what you by how you perform, by how you work, but also the different things that you say to guys. You know, I wasn't a guy that was a rah guy as far as my leadership, but I would take guys to the side, and if I felt like that there was something I needed to say to them, I would. I never wanted to show up anybody because we were all professionals out there. But if there was something I think needed to be said, I either said it to the whole team as a whole in a team meeting or whatever, or I said it to one individual on the side. So that's kind of the way I led vocally, but a lot of my leadership was more by how I carried myself.
Love it. Was there ever a moment where there was a lack of trust in the locker room? And if so, how did you guys deal with it as a team?
Lack of trust in what way do you say?
Could be in each other, in the ability. Maybe they didn't trust the coach. And again, maybe it never occurred, but I'm just curious because, you know, trust, it's earned in drips and it's lost in buckets.
Yeah, I think you go through those periods when you go through losing sometimes. You know, everybody starts to question everything that's going on. Are we doing the right things offensively? Are we doing the right things defensively?
Yeah, so let's unpack that. How many... Did you have a lot of consecutive losses? What was the longest streak?
Yeah, my first year there, we went through quite a losing period because, you know, we were a young new franchise, new head coach, very, very young, just not very, very talented. They were coming off a 2-14 year the year before, so it was a total rebuild, and that's one of the reasons why I went there, because it reminded me of my situation when I went to the University of Washington. You know, they were a 2-9 team before I went there, and it was a total rebuild, and we rebuilt it into a Rose Bowl champion. So I could have went some other places that had, you know, more winning tradition to them, but I just felt like the challenge was a little greater there. And then also, you know, of course, the business side of it, they paid me very well.
Yeah. So thank you for sharing that. So how did you deal with those losses? Because
it was tough.
Anybody can lead when the sun is shining.
No, it's tough, especially when you're used to winning. But I had been through it before. I had been through it in college, so I knew I could do it again. And like I said, I chose that. But you still, once you're in it, you never think it's going to be as bad as what it got, you know. And but what makes it so satisfying is when it does get turned around and you do get to the point where now you become a consecutive winning football team and a perennial playoff team. That's when you know all that was worth it.
And it's got to be that much sweeter, right?
Yeah, it really
Going
is.
through that valley.
You feel like you earned it.
Yeah, and, you know, I say this all the time, but success can quite often be a lousy teacher. Because when you're always successful, it's just like, what lessons are we learning? And the other thing that I love, you know, the quote, "The darkest nights produce the brightest stars."
Yeah.
Like you got to go through that valley. You got to go through those tough times to
really
really
do.
Embrace, you know, those victories.
You really do. It's called adversity. You
Yeah.
know? And how do you handle it? Because we all go through adversity in a lot of different ways, you know. I mean, every day you can almost say you wake up, you're going to deal with something, whether your alarm didn't go off on time or your car might not start or you're late to work. How do you deal with those situations? There's stuff that goes on throughout the day, all day long. But some are very, very small, but then some are bigger, like, you know, a tragedy of somebody, you know, getting in an accident or passing away or different things like that. So there's adversity that you're dealing with all the time as a human being. It's just, how do you handle those adverse situations? How do you handle the obstacles that are put in front of you?
Love it. What was, I guess, one of your biggest defining moments in your professional career when you were on the football field, either in the CFL or NFL?
In the CFL, you know, when I first went up there, we had a veteran quarterback by the name of Tom Wilkinson, so he played the majority of the time, but we kind of shared the position. So when he finally retired after my second year, now all of a sudden it was my football team, and we had already won a couple of championships. So the pressure was on me to keep this thing going, you know, to keep winning. And I remember in our first Western final, we got behind in that game. And all of a sudden our crowd is down on us because it was a home game and all that, and it looks like we're going to get upset, but somehow I was able to make some big plays down the stretch and turn the thing around, and we ended up winning and going on to our third Grey Cup in a row. So that was a big moment for me in the CFL, just trying to keep that string of championships going. And then in the NFL, it was trying to get to that first playoff game, to get to that first playoff win, and we finally got our first playoff win in my third year there at home against the Seattle Seahawks, and that was monumental for me because of what we went through to get there. Going through that adversity, going through the losing, going through the rebuilding, and guys maturing, all that. I just felt so satisfied walking off that field that day after that game.
Love it. And then how do you view the NFL today? What's the current state of the NFL in your opinion?
I think it's very healthy. I think the guys are being paid a tremendous amount of money.
Is that, let me ask you this, if you don't mind. Does that sometimes, and you can answer however you want, but does it sometimes man,
you look at it like that, but then it's all relative. I look at what I made compared to what Terry Bradshaw made, or Roger Staubach made, who were, some of the greatest quarterbacks to ever play the game, or Bart Starr.
That's a great perspective.
But the game just continues to keep growing, and it just keeps creating more and more revenue.
I love that.
So if it's going to create more revenue, the thing I'm more concerned about is making sure the players get their portion of that revenue. And so far, that's been happening. They have a really nice split between the revenue that's generated that's going to the players. So if the game keeps continuing to grow, with television money, with sponsorship money, and all the different things that go along with it, the players benefit. The only thing I want those guys to understand is of the guys who came before them.
Sure. Pay that respect.
Helped get them to that point.
Yeah,
there are guys that went on strike. There are guys that gave up money week after week when we were on strike.
There's a lot of shade that was created for them to rest under.
And there's a reason why this game is so healthy and so prosperous right now. A lot of it had to do with players who sacrificed during those younger days. And I just want them to. They don't owe us anything as far as paying us money or anything, but they should recognize it, because the NBA players do that all the time to the older players. They really recognize the older players as guys who built the game. I just want football players to do the same.
Yeah, and then Warren, walk us through the Hall of Fame, how that process works, how you got notified of it. It's got to, and I would assume that it's just what? I don't know. Just walk us through that.
First of all, the Hall of Fame, if there was 3% of players that think about going in the Hall of Fame when they first go into the NFL, I think half of those 3% are lying.
Got it.
You look at Hall of Fame players when you come into the league as like gods, or at least I did. Guys like I just talked about, Roger Staubach, Bart Starr, Jim Brown, Gale Sayers, all those types of players. You never dream that you're going to be one of those guys one day. You just want to get in the league. Especially for me, I just wanted to get into the NFL.
Yeah, you were 27 years
Canada
old
for 6 years. My journey was a little bit different. So maybe it meant a lot more to me than maybe it meant to a lot of other guys. But every guy that I know that has come into that thing, it brings tears to their eyes. It's something that they really, really cherish. So to even think about getting to that point, and then all of a sudden now at the end of your career, you start to hear the rumblings of maybe you have a chance to be selected one day just because of the body of work you've put together. Because that's what people don't understand. It's a body of work. You've got to put together anywhere from 8 to 12 years of really good football and be considered one of the best to ever play at your position while you were playing to even be considered. So there's a lot of guys that kind of fit that. And you can't put them all in because they have a restriction on how many guys can go in, and you have to wait 5 years before you can go in, all those different things. So when it got to my point of doing it and being a first ballot guy, I didn't know if that was going to happen or not for me. One, because I hadn't won a championship, and I don't think championships back then were as big a deal as they are today. They put so much on that today. It's like if you don't have a Super Bowl, then you're probably not going to be selected to the Hall of Fame. But I had other guys like Dan Marino and like Dan Fouts and Jim Kelly and all those guys that never won one either. So I felt like my numbers and everything, I was third all time in every passing category when I finished the game. I didn't think I could do much better than that. So, but I didn't have the championship. So I just didn't know how it was going to go for me as far as being a first ballot Hall of Famer. But when it came around to it happening, oh my God, it was the most emotional day of my life. Only because I know what I went through to get there. You know, it wasn't just about my career playing on the football field in the NFL. It was about the journey that I went through to even get to the NFL. It was about not just the football side of it getting to the NFL. It was some of the racism that I faced. It was some of the you're not good enough. It's the you're not good enough because of the color of your skin. All that different stuff that I never even talked about a lot until I stopped playing the game. So mine was a little bit different than a lot of other guys that get there because they didn't have those same problems that I had to deal with, and that's why I am the only African American quarterback in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and because of I'm still wondering why there hasn't been another one, and I'm wondering why it's taking so long. But the fact that I was the first was quite an accomplishment for me.
Wow, super insightful. So, that quote from Frazier, champions are not made in the ring, they're merely recognized there. So as you're describing this, I'm almost wondering to myself, and I mean, this is a question for you, but my spidey senses tell me that the playing on the field is probably the easy part.
Yeah.
The hard part was the racism, the doubting, the name calling, the family life, the trauma, having to put all the pieces of the puzzle together so you could get to the football field and the weight room and, all the news that you have to deal with and all that stuff. Like that, I think we underestimate that body of work because what you put on the field, it's not that. It's what you did way before that that gets you game ready to get recognized. And I think we completely underestimate that with life.
Yeah, I just wish I didn't have to deal with that type of stuff while I played, like a lot of other guys probably didn't have to.
Yeah, but because you were a trailblazer to now help this generation to not have to deal with it. And it's just sad that you had to deal with it.
But to have
sad
to go into not every game, but go into majority of your games thinking that way.
Yeah.
Or kind of shrugging your shoulders to wonder what the comments are going to be this week as you come out the tunnel.
Wow.
You shouldn't have to worry about that. You should just have to worry about, okay, we're the road team and we're going to get booed when we go out because we're the road team.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about playing in Canada. I never had any of that. It was we were the road team and we got booed, and you expect that. But it was different.
Yeah.
It was totally different. And I experienced it all the way back in college. So it wasn't as bad for me in the National Football League because I had dealt with it in college. But now I have a family sitting up in the stands watching me play, where I didn't in college. So that's what my biggest concern was. How do they deal with that? How do they handle it? When my son comes up to me after a game crying because I'm thinking it's because we lost. No, it's because of what they heard people saying about their dad, and you're trying to make sense to him about those types of things. So, I wish I didn't have to deal with those types of things, but like you said, it makes you a stronger person. It makes you understand, what society is all about, and I think it makes you tougher.
No, thank you for sharing that. I mean, again, it's sad. Talk to us about life after, because, you continued with football, just not necessarily on the field. So talk to us about what you did post-retiring from being on the field to play. What was the next step? What was the next move?
Yeah, I had majored in communications in college, so because I had kind of prepared myself while I was playing, I had radio shows, I had TV shows while I was a player in different cities. That's where I felt like I was going to go next, go into broadcasting. So that's what I did. And
what year was this?
That was 2002, I think.
Okay.
I took a little bit of time off, but I got bored not doing anything. I felt like, okay, I'm going to take some time. I've played 23 years. I need to just step away from
What took your what filled your
I
time?
just missed it.
But meaning when you were done?
Nothing. That's the problem.
Yeah. No golf, no nothing.
No, nothing. I got tired of just working out all the time, and I just missed football.
Yeah,
And
no
all of a
doubt.
sudden, I was getting calls from different people to do different stuff, and I said, okay, I'm gonna go back into it and give it a try. And I didn't want to do it on a national level because that's too much time, because you're talking 3-4 days out of your life doing that. I didn't want to do it that much, but I still wanted to stay close to the game. So that's one of the reasons why I got back into it, and that's why I did it, locally with the team that I was there playing, had played for, and also living in that city. It made it so much easier that you're going to be at home for 8-10 games out of the season, and you go on the road and you're going to travel with the team, not traveling on your own, having to get hotels, all the different stuff that the national guys have to do. It made it so easy doing it with a team.
And then you had a marketing company,
Yes,
promotion company. Maybe unpack that for us. Explain that venture and what the reason behind it was. And are you still active in that endeavor?
We wound that up about 4 years ago.
Okay.
But my partner and I, we had been with Lee Steinberg prior to that. I worked with Lee coming out of retirement as well. That's what I did my first, say, year and a half when I got bored. I was mentoring some of his clients, like Ben Roethlisberger and different people like that, helping train some of those guys. But it wasn't something that I really wanted to do. I didn't want to go chasing after recruiting young college players and doing that type of thing. So we had another guy in the organization that we decided to start our own marketing business, and we wanted to get involved with corporations and companies that wanted to have more of a identity in sports. So you take a hair care products company that wanted to get their products in the locker rooms of NFL teams or NBA teams or whatever. So that's what we worked to do, and it was a really good business for us for about 8-9 years. I really enjoyed doing it. It was very challenging, and but then we decided just split up and go our separate ways. But I really enjoyed doing it. Made a lot of great contacts within that business, and I was still doing the broadcasting at the same time. So we were based down in Southern California, and I was still living in Seattle. So I was on airplanes a lot, and it just got to be a lot for me over that period of time.
Got it. So a couple more questions for you. Talk to us about, so, a lot of people talk about work-life balance. In my opinion, it doesn't exist, because balance represents, signifies equilibrium.
Yeah.
And when you're on the football field, you're being a terrible dad because you're working, you're on the football field. You're a terrible husband, you're not with your wife. Like right now, I'm not being a good dad, I'm with you, I'm doing this. But when I'm at home, you harmonize. So I believe in work-life harmony.
Right.
So maybe talk to us about your philosophy, just the family, and with that busy career that you had, and just so many things always, attacking you, and so many highs and so many lows. Like, how do you view work-life harmony?
It's something that you have to always be aware of, and something that you always have to try and find a way to make it as balanced as you can, but that doesn't mean that's going to happen. Football is something that really dominates your life, especially when you're an NFL quarterback, because you're pulled so many different ways. Everybody wants you to be at every event. I had my own foundation, so I had my own events. The game just requires a lot of you media-wise. I had a radio show and a TV show when I was playing as well, so that took me away certain nights and certain days of the week from the family. So you had to really, you weren't going to spend as much time with your family as you wanted to, but you had to make sure that the time you did spend with them was quality. So the quality part of it was the most important thing to me. And then there were certain days that, regardless of what was going on, those were days earmarked for family.
Love it. And was it difficult for you to have those days earmarked and actually fulfill on those days, or was it pretty systematic?
I did a pretty good job of making sure those days were fulfilled. Now, did I miss a bunch of games that my kids played or whatever? Yeah, it was even tough for me to go to a game when I was free, just because of who you are. You just can't go sit in the bleachers and watch a game and enjoy it the way you want to enjoy it, because people are at you. They want something, So a lot of times I would watch, say, soccer games. I'd watch them in my car.
Just so that people want to come after you. That's crazy.
And I'd have to watch it from a distance, but I was there. So yeah, you definitely had to adjust your life when you're an NFL quarterback in a city, especially in a city like Houston, Texas, where football is just everything.
Yeah.
Well, the state of Texas is just like that.
Yeah, no doubt. Okay, final question for you. You've been more than generous with your time, your insight, your professionalism, so thank you so much. Well, sorry, I didn't catch what you said. You said what?
Don't worry about it.
You said, did you say I'm tired? Is that what you said? So last question for you. Advice that you want to share just on living your life by design in general. Anything goes.
It just depends, first of all, what you want to do. I started out picking something that the odds of me making it were going to be very, very slim, but that was the brashness and confidence that I had in myself and my ability.
Does it take a little crazy to be able to?
I don't know if crazy is the word, but you're definitely putting yourself out there, and taking a big risk that you're going to get mud thrown in your face. And I got a lot of mud thrown at me. I just, I ducked and dodged a lot of it. I didn't listen to everything that was said to me because I had tremendous confidence in my ability. I had a really good way of sizing up the talent level around me, and the guys that were in my peer group, how good I was compared to them. I was good at that. So as long as I felt like I was as good as they were or better, I felt like I should have had as much of an opportunity as anybody else. It was just a matter of who was going to give me that opportunity. So no matter how many doors I had closed in my face, people telling me you can't, you need to go to another position, all those different things. As long as I kept feeling like I could compete with these guys, I was going to keep trying. I was going to keep working, and somebody was going to give me a chance. And that's what happened when I went to high school. That's what happened when I had to go to junior college after high school, because no major school was going to give me a quarterback scholarship. So I went to junior college for a year, and then I was able to earn a scholarship to the University of Washington. And then when I came out of Washington, I had to do the same thing to try and get to the NFL. Nobody was going to give me that opportunity, so Canada did. So I just went wherever my opportunities were, but still with the same goal in mind of being a quarterback of either a major institution or an NFL quarterback, because I felt like all the guys that I had seen and worked out with or whatever or played against, I knew I was as good as they were, but I just wasn't getting the chance, and I knew part of the reason why.
You had the why, you had the reason, you had the conviction, the vision. So love it. You've been more than generous. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me. And thanks for what you do.
Thank you very much. That's a wrap. Thank you.